10 years ago, the case for global warming was not nearly as compelling as it is today. The evidence is piling up. It's actually piling up so rapidly now, it's almost difficult to assimilate it. But at this point, there is no doubt whatsoever that we are undergoing tremendous climate change here on the home planet. And if we don't address some of these issues in the new century, in the new millennium, really the future of civilization is teetering on the decisions that we make today. The unique thing about the home planet is really the world oceans. It's really the reason we're all here, and it determines our relatively benign climate when we look at some of our neighbors like Mars and Venus. And the great climate systems really flow out of the great oceans. Here in the American Southwest, we're right at the doorstep of the Pacific Ocean, which covers 45% of the planet. And so if you're an oceanographer, for sure, you're also a climatologist and a meteorologist, because all these disciplines are so dependent on the oceans. There are great natural cycles that come out of the Pacific, El Nino, La Nina, and even a larger stage on which El Nino and La Nina play, something we call the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. And whereas the 80s and the 90s were pretty wet here in California, in the American Southwest, for instance, we've had the driest 8 years in a row we've ever seen in history on the Colorado River. And so it looks like we're in for a prolonged dry spell here in the American Southwest. And of course, here in Southern California, there are 20 million of us between Santa Barbara and Tijuana, and we're all pretty thirsty. And so as we look out into the future, water is going to get scarcer and scarcer. And by the way, the global warming scenario is for a drier West. And so we're definitely going to have to tighten our belts and be a little more rational about how we use our water. And if we're rational, we won't have to do serious rationing. As the great industrial and agricultural revolutions began almost 2 centuries ago, we've added tremendous quantities of carbon dioxide, methane, what we call the greenhouse gases. And so they've accumulated in the atmosphere, and they have a very long residence time. Even if we turned off all those SUVs tomorrow, we would continue to warm for the next half century. And in the last century, global sea level has risen 12 inches. And it's forecast, with exploding populations and industrializations, in the new century to probably rise another 2 feet. And that will be a fundamental change in many, many civilizations. People always ask, is it possible to actually slow down or stop global warming? Well, at this point, the bad news is that we definitely can't stop global warming. But can we slow it down? Of course, this is the challenge of the new century. As a global community, can we wean ourselves off, as our president has said, our addiction to fossil fuel? And I think we can. If the major leaders, political, religious, and economic leaders across the planet can agree on a plan, we can definitely wean ourselves off fossil fuel to solar energy, geothermal energy. There are a lot of alternatives here. And just on an individual basis, we can definitely decrease our carbon footprint. And so we have to be optimistic.